One drawing. That's all it took. One simple picture made by a frightened child, years before anyone understood what this town really was. And now it looks like that drawing wasn't a memory. It was a warning. Because if Victor wasn't drawing the past, then he was drawing the future. And that changes absolutely everything we thought we knew about From.
Think about it.
Victor has spent decades filling notebooks, walls, and pieces of paper with strange images.
Trees. People.
Monsters. Empty roads. The lighthouse. The boy in white. Broken houses. Symbols that seemed random. Scenes that looked disconnected. Most viewers believe those drawings were just the way Victor remembered traumatic events. But what if we've been looking at them completely backwards? What if they were never memories at all? What if Victor has been documenting events that hadn't happened yet? And this is where it gets darker. Season after season, the show quietly keeps proving one disturbing pattern. Every time Victor draws something that doesn't make sense, the story eventually catches up to it. Not immediately. Sometimes years later. Sometimes entire seasons later. But it catches up. That isn't coincidence anymore. That's a system. Look at what the show is actually telling us. Victor almost never explains his drawings. He protects them. He hides them. He gets nervous whenever someone asks too many questions.
Why?
If they're only childhood memories, why guard them so carefully? Why act like showing the wrong drawing could change something? That's not normal trauma behavior. That's someone protecting dangerous information. Information that people aren't supposed to know yet. And maybe Victor himself doesn't fully understand why. This is the detail everyone missed. Victor rarely says, "I remember." Instead, he says things like, "I drew it." That sounds small, but in From, words matter. The writers constantly hide massive truths inside ordinary dialogue. Victor doesn't rely on memory. He relies on drawings. Almost like the drawings remember things for him. Almost like they exist independently of his own mind. But here's what changes everything. What if Victor isn't the artist? What if he's only the messenger? Because we've seen this idea before. Characters in From often receive information they don't understand. Sarah hears voices. Tabitha receives impossible visions. Jade sees symbols no one else can explain. Elgin dreams about places he's never visited. None of them choose these experiences. They're chosen. So, why would Victor be different? Maybe the town communicates with every character differently. Sarah hears. Jade sees. Tabitha dreams. And Victor draws. Not because he's imagining things. Because something is showing them to him. Frame by frame. Picture by picture. Long before they happen. Suddenly, decades of strange artwork becomes something much more terrifying. A timeline, hidden in plain sight. Now think back to Victor's childhood. He survived when almost everyone else died. The obvious explanation has always been that he got lucky. But did he? Or was he being preserved? Because every mystery story has one character who unknowingly carries the answers. Not because they're the strongest. Not because they're the smartest. Because they're the archive. Victor remembers what everyone else forgets. But maybe memory was never his real purpose. Maybe prediction was. And this completely changes how we should look at every drawing we've already seen. Take the lighthouse. Victor drew it long before most characters understood why it mattered. Later, the lighthouse became one of the most important locations in the entire story.
Take the boy in white.
Victor accepted him as normal while everyone else treated him like an impossible mystery.
Why?
Because he'd already seen him. Again through drawings. Take the trees. For years they looked like ordinary sketches. Now we know the trees are connected to movement, destiny, and the impossible geography of the town. Suddenly those simple drawings don't look simple anymore. They look like instructions. Almost like someone was teaching Victor how the town works, one picture at a time. And this is where the theory becomes impossible to ignore. If Victor's drawings predicted the lighthouse, if they predicted the boy in white, if they predicted locations that became crucial years later, then how many drawings are still waiting for the future to happen? That's the terrifying question. Because the show has never shown us every drawing. Not even close.
There are stacks of them.
Boxes filled with them. Entire collections we've barely explored. Why would the writers spend so much time emphasizing Victor's artwork? If most of it didn't matter, they wouldn't. Every object in From serves a purpose eventually, especially the ones the camera keeps returning to. Every season gives us another glimpse, another page, another strange image. Never enough to understand the whole picture. Almost like the audience is experiencing the drawings exactly the way the characters do, one clue at a time. But here's something even stranger. Have you noticed how the camera lingers on certain drawings for just a second longer than necessary? Not long enough for us to study them, just long enough for our subconscious to recognize them. The show isn't simply showing us art. It's planting evidence. Evidence that only becomes meaningful after later episodes reveal the truth. That's classic mystery storytelling. Hide the answer in plain sight. Then make the audience realize it was there all along. And if that's what the writers have been doing, then season may 4th not introduce new mysteries at all. It may simply reveal that Victor has already drawn every major event before it happens. Which means the biggest secret in From isn't hidden underground. It isn't inside the lighthouse. And it isn't locked inside the faraway trees. It's been sitting on paper this entire time, waiting for someone to finally understand what they're really looking at. If Victor's drawings are really predicting the future, then the next question becomes unavoidable. Who is giving him the images? Because they don't feel random. They don't feel emotional. And they certainly don't feel like the work of someone simply remembering childhood trauma. They feel organized. Almost as if someone or something is building a record of the town long before the people inside it understand what they're seeing. But here's what changes everything. The show has quietly revealed that time inside From doesn't behave the way it does anywhere else. We've seen visions that don't belong to the present. We've watched characters witness events they never lived through. Some people remember places they've never visited. Others dream about people they've never met. At first, these moments looked supernatural. Now they look connected. The town doesn't just trap people. It traps time. And if time itself is broken, then Victor's drawings stop being impossible. They become evidence of someone looking at the timeline from the outside. Think about the faraway trees. Nobody understands how they choose where someone ends up. Sometimes they save you. Sometimes they send you somewhere dangerous. Sometimes they seem completely random. But what if they're not random at all? What if they don't move people through space? They move them through the town's hidden timeline. That would explain why so many events feel strangely predetermined. Characters often believe they're making choices, but the outcome already feels decided. Almost like they're walking through a story that's already been written. And Victor is the only one who's accidentally reading parts of that story before everyone else. This is the detail everyone missed. Whenever Victor becomes uncomfortable around one of his drawings, it usually happens before the audience understands why it matters, not after. That's incredibly important. If those pictures were only memories, their emotional impact would come from the past. Instead, Victor often reacts as if he's afraid of something still coming. Watch his expressions carefully. He isn't remembering. He's anticipating. There's fear, confusion, even hesitation. Almost like he recognizes the image, but doesn't know when it will happen. That isn't how memory works. That's how prophecy works. And this is where it gets darker. Look at Victor's relationship with Ethan. Most viewers think Victor protects Ethan because Ethan reminds him of himself as a child. That explanation makes sense. But it may not be the real reason. What if Victor keeps staying close to Ethan because he's already seen Ethan's future? Imagine carrying drawings that reveal terrible things waiting to happen. Imagine seeing someone smiling today while knowing what tomorrow looks like. Wouldn't you try to protect them? Wouldn't you stay close? Victor never acts like someone guessing. He acts like someone delaying the inevitable. That's a completely different motivation. Now think about the boy in white, one of the biggest mysteries in the entire series. Every time he appears, the story changes direction. He never wastes words. He never explains himself. He simply nudges people toward the next piece of the puzzle, almost like he already knows where the story ends. But here's the strange part. Victor never reacts to the boy in white with the same fear everyone else shows. There's familiarity. recognition, almost trust.
Why?
Maybe because Victor has seen him hundreds of times, not in person but inside those drawings. What if every appearance of the boy in white had already been placed on paper years earlier? Suddenly Victor isn't surprised anymore. He's simply watching the timeline unfold exactly as expected. Look at what the show is actually telling us. The boy in white always appears around moments of transition.
Deaths.
Discoveries. Major decisions. The opening of new mysteries. It's almost as if he's making sure events happen in the correct order. Not changing fate, maintaining it. And if that's true, Victor's drawings may not be predictions. They may be checkpoints. A visual map showing that the timeline is progressing exactly as it should. That idea becomes even more disturbing when you think about Jade. Jade constantly sees symbols that nobody else understands. He believes they're clues. But maybe there's something else entirely. Maybe they're fragments of the same language Victor is drawing. One receives pictures. Another receives symbols. Different methods. Same source. The town isn't speaking English. It's speaking through images. That's why logic keeps failing. Nobody is solving separate mysteries. They're each holding one piece of the exact same message. Sarah hears voices. Jade sees symbols. Tabitha experiences visions. Elgin dreams. Victor draws. 5 different characters. 5 different methods. One sender. That pattern cannot be ignored anymore. Because Fromm repeats patterns intentionally. Whenever the writers repeat something across different characters, they're teaching the audience how the world works without ever saying it directly. And this pattern points toward one terrifying conclusion. The town has always been communicating. The real mystery was never whether it could communicate. The real mystery is why it chose these specific people. Why Victor? Why not someone stronger? Why not someone older? Why not Christopher? Unless Victor was selected long before the massacre. Long before Boyd. Long before Tabitha. Long before anyone we know ever arrived. Because someone needed to preserve the future. Not change it. Preserve it. And if Victor truly carries the town's hidden timeline inside those drawings, then every page we haven't seen yet could already contain the answers to Season 4. Not theories. Not possibilities. Answers. Which raises one terrifying thought. What if the most important drawing has already appeared on screen, and none of us recognized it? What if the biggest spoiler in From has never been hidden inside a trailer, never leaked online, never revealed in an interview, but has been sitting in Victor's drawings since the very beginning? That sounds impossible, until you remember how this show tells its story. From almost never answers a mystery directly. Instead, it plants small visual clues years before they become important. A strange object, a forgotten conversation, a symbol in the background, something that feels meaningless until suddenly it isn't. Victor's drawings fit that pattern perfectly, not because they're mysterious, but because they're too complete. Look closely at them. They don't focus on emotions. They focus on events, locations, people, connections. Almost like someone is documenting history before history happens. And this is where it gets darker. What if Victor isn't drawing what will happen? He's drawing what must happen. That single difference changes the entire theory. A prediction can fail. A requirement cannot. Think back to every major tragedy in the town. The massacre Victor survived. Father Cattry's death. The collapse of the Matthews house. Tabitha reaching the lighthouse. The appearance of new arrivals. Each event feels shocking to the characters. But to the town, it almost feels scheduled. Every death creates a new question. Every answer opens another door. Every survivor becomes important in a different way. It's as if the town isn't reacting to people. It's moving them across a board, like pieces in a game. And Victor's drawings may be the game's rulebook. This is the detail everyone missed. Whenever someone tries to force the truth instead of discovering it naturally, the town pushes back. People disappear. Visions become stronger. The monsters become more active. It's almost as though the town protects its own story. Not its people. Its story. That would explain something fans have debated for years. Why don't the monsters always kill immediately? There are countless opportunities. Yet sometimes they wait.
Sometimes they speak.
Sometimes they manipulate. Sometimes they leave survivors behind. At first, it seemed inconsistent. Now it looks intentional. Because fear is only one purpose. Positioning is another. The monsters aren't simply hunters. They're caretakers of the timeline. Removing the wrong person too early could change everything. Saving the right person could change even more. Suddenly their behavior isn't random. It's strategic. And who understands strategy better than anyone?
Victor.
Notice how he often knows where to go, what to avoid, when to leave, when to stay silent. He rarely explains why. Everyone assumes it's instinct built from years of survival. But maybe it isn't instinct at all. Maybe he's following a map only he can see. A map hidden inside hundreds of drawings. But here's what changes everything. Season 4 has been quietly setting up a confrontation unlike anything we've seen before. Not between Boyd and the monsters. Not between Tabitha and the town. Between knowledge and destiny. Because every season, another character gets closer to understanding how this place really works. Boyd challenges its rules. Jade tries to decode its language. Tabitha searches for a way out. Ethan believes the stories matter. And Victor already holds pieces of all of their journeys. The moment those pieces are brought together, the town faces something it has avoided for decades. Someone finally seeing the complete picture. That's why Victor has always felt different. Not because he's the oldest survivor. Because he's the closest thing this town has to a living archive. He isn't the hero. He isn't the chosen one. He's the evidence. Everything points back to him. Every mystery eventually brushes against one of his drawings. Every revelation makes an old sketch feel more important. Every new season quietly confirms another image we dismissed years ago. And if the writers have been this careful from the beginning, then the remaining drawings aren't background props. They're the final chapters. Imagine the last episodes of Season 4 revealing a forgotten box of Victor's artwork. Pages we've never seen. Drawings made decades ago. One after another.
Boyd.
Tabitha.
Jade.
The boy in white. The lighthouse. The tunnels. The faraway trees. Even events that haven't happened yet. Not because Victor guessed them, because someone already knew the ending. That would instantly reframe the entire series. From would no longer be a story about escaping a cursed town. It would become a story about people unknowingly acting out a future that had already been recorded. A future hidden in crayons and paper by the one person nobody ever suspected. And maybe that's why Victor has survived for so long. Not because the town couldn't kill him. Because it can't. Destroy Victor. And you destroy the record. Destroy the record. And perhaps the town loses the story it has been trying to preserve all along. That's a terrifying possibility. Because if the story must survive, then the characters may never have been the point. They were simply the pages. But one final question refuses to go away. If Victor's drawings have truly been predicting every major event, has he already drawn how from ends? And if he has, who is making sure that ending comes true?